You see everyone in the camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Mic check, Mr.
Oh, Mike 1, check 1. This is Latriva. It is October 3rd. Can you believe it?
Already.
Sheesh. Mhm.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
Wasn't there
All right.
some?
Tighten.
Mic
Check.
Hello. 1, 2. Okay.
All these singers in the building. What's up, it's your girl, Miss Me? I'm gonna give you a note going one day.
There you go. All right, we are ready. All right.
Awesome.
Money. Let's get this money.
Let's get it.
This show is sponsored in part by Compass for Conduct Disorder, a 501c3 nonprofit organization offering support for those living with conduct disorder. To make a donation or find out more about conduct disorder, visit www.compassforcd.org.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Miss Mimi. It's the Love Power Radio Show. Today is October 3rd in the year 2020. It's your girl, Miss Mimi, aka Mimi the Great, and I got sitting across the table from me, the one and only
Latriva Denise. I need an AKA. AKA.
Latriva D.
AKA.
No, not
No, I'm gonna do it. Diva. Latriva Diva.
Oh,
That's what I was when I was in college.
Yeah.
I was Triva Diva at yahoo.com.
Oh, welcome through, Triva. And to my right, we have the one and only Titan Capri.
Yeah.
It's different to have a male voice in my ear.
I know, right?
Girl, I'm not ready.
When we was mic checking, I was like, wait a minute. I know you my friend, so you already know what I want to know today. It's 9 being knows. I just want to know how y'all doing. How was your week?
How was your week, Titan?
Yes.
Okay, so my week was a little stressful.
Okay.
The only reason I say that is because I got so many things going on.
Okay.
I'm a part of like up-team trainings, and we're doing things for our organization. We're moving, and we are working on the Trans Ally Collective right now.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that. But so the week has been kind of busy. So come yesterday, it was really, really good to just do nothing.
Okay,
but
good.
rest.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. If I can say this, I pretty much laid in the bed, put the laptop over there, turned on Netflix or whatever.
Yes.
Have you. You know that good rest
Yep.
when it's cold in the house and all you have on is a sheet.
Oh,
Yeah,
you need a sheet.
Not even a blanket, a sheet.
Okay.
That's that kind of
rest.
that kind of rest.
Yeah, it is a different rest.
So look, my week was good.
That's
Week,
good.
after that Friday, yesterday, my week was good.
That's
Nice.
awesome. That's how was
That's
your
nice.
week, Miss Mimi?
Well, I made it through.
Amen.
We had
Amen.
the emotional roller
Yes,
coaster
okay.
going on. Yes,
Yeah.
amen.
Amen.
I made it through it, so I'm grateful for that. I learned a lot about me
Yeah.
and what I wasn't doing and all that. So I got some tweaks to do,
Good.
and I think that's an amazing thing to be able to
Yes.
learn from your mistakes
That's
and
right.
decide because
Right.
it is a decision. What you want with it?
That's right. That's
So,
opportunity to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
You truly
Level up.
learn something new every day.
Every day.
How was your week?
My week was actually really good.
Awesome.
I am super excited. Have y'all noticed the difference? Like, it's October and it just feels like fall is just a different feeling.
Mhm.
And it's just like the energy has been different. Not bad. It's just, it's been a noticeable shift for me at least. And so I'm just like, what's happening? Like, I feel like something's moving. I feel like there's about to be a shift in something.
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of, I find myself feeling like I'm on the edge of my seat because I'm like, okay, what's about to happen?
Mhm.
Like something's giving me, it's like putting me on alert. Something has the universe is saying, beware, be ready, be ready.
Right.
Again, not anything bad. So I'm excited a little bit because I'm like, what is this? You know, kind of like how you feel right before Christmas, maybe that week of Christmas when you get out of school.
Yeah.
So like you're done with your commitments, right? And so now I can be in the season, right? And you know it's boxes under the tree for you. You don't know which ones or what's in, you know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of that feeling. So, you know, it was crazy, but I just noticed that and I was like, okay, what is that spirit? What are you saying to me right now?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a very interesting week. So I'm kind of feeling anticipatory and what's about to go down. So yeah. Thank you, girl. I teach us a little bit. Come on. Word of the day.
Yes, indeed. So next up, we are going to do my absolute favorite thing. And it's for y'all. I mean, give you some information.
Yes, you are the teacher.
Because we're still in this this election era, this election period. This is a very important election. I can't stress it enough. And I'll probably be talking about it until November 3rd.
Yes.
So, and it's
unapologetic. Because it's not going to be over on the 3rd.
Yeah, an unapologetic thing. And interestingly enough, I was coming across somebody's page and he was talking about how the last election, how he did not vote.
Yeah.
Because he was like, wasn't nobody there.
Same.
Right.
So I ain't feel like nobody, so I didn't vote basically.
Same.
He was like, and now we got people who like to jump behind bushes when they don't want to answer questions.
Yeah.
What I'm just saying, and I was like, wow. And so he was like, you know, vote. The system is set up for a reason. It's set up for you to go and put these people in place.
Yeah.
Go do your job so that, you know, like we talked about last week, the senators, and we did senators last week, right? And what their position is, what their job is for the people.
Yep.
Hold them accountable.
Yep.
Make them do their job.
That's
Make
right.
them earn their paycheck.
That's right. That's right.
So this week, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're right about that. Think about it like this. If you don't vote, you're voting for the other person.
That's right.
So just the same way that Hillary, you know, they thought that she had it in the bag because she was the popular, right? But then that electoral college came up and snatched all of that. But it was because people were saying, oh, she got it, so I'm not going to vote. My vote is not going to matter.
Right.
But if you do not vote, then you're literally voting for the other person.
Yeah.
And the reality is also that with not voting, we are allowing our democracy to be up for grabs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Up for interpretation in a way that may not represent what our interpretation of that thing would be. Right? So when you let a person who is as corrupt as this individual that is in the office, I call him 46 minus 1 because he does not deserve, first of all, he doesn't deserve the title. I'm not even giving him the number. I'm not even doing this.
I like that.
I'm relegating you to numerics. And so when you don't vote, then that's how you get that corruption in the office. And then we've seen in the last 3 years that everything becomes negotiable. Everything gets in flux. And so when we are not doing our part, our civic duties, then we allow our democracy to be co-opted.
Exactly.
Because you don't really know what somebody's gonna do until they're in that office.
That's true.
And then once they got that power, there is no retracting it until the next election.
Yeah.
And so I was one of the people who didn't vote. And it was like such a reality check because there was one other election, I think it was Clinton and Bush. I was in college and I don't think I voted at that point. But you know, there's still this sort of, and both of them are terrible, but we have this belief in the democracy working, right? And this was just so anti that. Like we are watching this man is trying to create anarchy. Like he's trying to create an autocracy, right? And he thinks he's going to become a dictator. Like that is really what he's trying to set up. And we see that because we have functioned in good faith in this democratic process, that there are people who are really working. Like there are systems and power, and the Republican Party is just willing to let him run roughshod all over this thing.
Yeah, and some other people. And then too, let's we not forget that we do have the Green Party
That's
to choose from.
That's right.
That are people, in that party that are running for presidency, as well as the
libertarian. Like liberty,
like
not the librarian.
Well, that's what I think about when I see the word. You're right.
The librarian.
So we do have other options, right? May those people may actually be
able,
to support or to do what it is that you want. So please don't just follow the media. Do your research. And then today we're going to bring to you who's on the ballot, part 3.
So we have the U.S. House. So last week we talked about the Senate. And so the U.S. House is, these are incumbents for different districts, for the congressional districts 1 through 36. You can find out who's running for each district and their individual platforms if you go to www.usfacts.org. But the incumbent is the person who is currently holding a particular office. So President Clinton would, I lied.
She said 46 minus
46 minus 1 would be the incumbent in this upcoming presidential election. So the role of our House representatives are that they represent us. Their duties are carried out by them, and they are understood to include our representation. They participate in the legislation and being constituents of service as well as education. And then they also participate in political and electoral activities. Their duties, they're often referred to as congressmen or congresswomen. Each representative is elected to a 2-year term, serving the people of a specific congressional district. Among their responsibilities, they introduce bills, they introduce resolutions, they offer amendments, and they serve on a variety of committees. Some of those duties, if we break them down, they include making laws. So when we talk about legislation, when we talk about laws being changed around issues that seem to be unfairly leaning one way or the other, they are the ones who participate in that. They are the ones that give the final permission as to whether or not we move into war. So the president cannot unilaterally make that decision. She must go before Congress to make this petition, and they are the ones to make that decision. They are the ones who raise and provide public money and oversee its proper expenditure. So when we talk about the HEROES Act, when we talk about stimulus packages, when we talk about these resources that are either made available or withheld, this is the Congress's role. They are responsible to impeach and try federal officers. And we all got an introduction, or many of us got an introduction to that impeachment experience and process this year or this term with 46 minus 1. Approved presidential appointment. So when the president is trying to appoint this Supreme Court Judge Amy Coney Barrett, this is the role of Congress to either approve or deny. And when you have a Republican-controlled Congress, what do you think the likely outcome of a Republican president's nominee for Supreme Court? They're probably going to get that passed. So understanding that there needs to be balance in these houses so that there is actual interest and not bias when it comes to, or just some, political, we're running away with it because we're the majority. And then finally, they approve treaties negotiated by the executive branch. The executive branch is that of the president. So when the president is making treaties with different organizations or with our Native American brothers and sisters, they are the group that actually seals the approval, or they're the ones who create or prevent it from happening. And so when we are looking at our House representatives, there are far too many. There are 36 districts. So there are far too many for us to list versus what we've done in the last few weeks with letting you know who your representatives were for president and also for Senate. So you need to go to www.usfacts.org so that you can see who your congressional district representatives are and get familiar with who they are and their platforms. That's www.usfacts.org. Your homework is to research the House representatives for your districts.
Yes.
Vote, vote, vote. Be familiar first, but vote.
Yes. Can't stress that enough.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break right here, and then you want to just stay with us, and we'll move forward.
We'll be right back.
Are you sick of steroids, water-based products,
Good.
products full of toxins?
All right.
Lizzie's All Natural Products creates fresh.
We're right in between 3:05 and 3:30. So I figured, you guys talk about the segment and come back.
Simple plant-based.
Wait, say it again.
I said,
Good for your
we're a little early. So
Oh.
introduce all of that.
Okay.
We can come back from that after the break, and then we can just jump over at 3:30 to the next segment.
Got it.
Is that cool?
Okay.
5 seconds, stand by.
For more information, and be sure to use the promo code STUNT at checkout.
And we are back to the Love Power Radio Show. It's your girl, Miss Mimi, and across the table from me is my girl.
Latriva Denise.
Yes. So next up, we're going to talk about real briefly absentee mail-in voting.
Yes.
So, because if you've been paying attention to all the rhetoric on the TV, 46 minus 1 has made it known that he does not want that happening. And there are several states who have done absentee voting, period. Right. And there are some states where that's automatically the thing that they do. Due to the pandemic, there are several states who changed the rules to include absentee voting, in where you don't have to voters are not required to present an excuse to absentee vote. California, Arizona, Nevada, Arkansas, Missouri, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Kentucky, Alabama, South Carolina. There's lots of them. So make sure you check it out, Google it, so you can check out, get the information you need for your state, because some states like Texas, of course, is among the 5 or 4 that still require you to give a reason, not including COVID-19, that you want to
vote absentee.
That you want to vote absentee.
Oh wow!
Good old state.
So
of
I had
Texas.
to get your permission.
Yeah. To absentee. We're not talking about the fact that I could. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There are several states that send out ballots to people. Period. Right.
Ballots or application?
Applications.
Applications. Okay.
For voting, and then there are also several states where you can request.
Okay.
So Google it. Make sure you know the rules and regulations for your particular state, because every state is different and has different rules for how that goes.
And then being aware of in Texas that there are lawsuits because the governor has ordered to close ballot drop-off locations. So there are voting rights groups who are suing Governor Greg Abbott over this. So there's definitely the effort to disenfranchise people, make it more difficult for us to vote. And the fact that these things are being done so publicly is to let us know, like, this is very serious. So for someone to go to great lengths to, we've seen the post office removing, ballot boxes or mailboxes or whatever, so that they have fewer places to drop things off. And then you have this here in our lovely state. So just being involved, being engaged is so important right now. So
it really is.
Yeah.
So make sure that you
Go
vote.
Go vote.
And get
Inform
registered
yourself.
to vote. Yeah.
Get registered to vote and vote.
Yeah.
Exactly. All that so this is so good. So I just want to say this really quickly. Please go vote.
Yes.
If you can go out and you can get fast food, you can go out and
That's right.
You can do this, you can check your mail, you can do all of this good stuff. If you can go online and buy from Amazon or anybody else, book a ticket, go vote.
Vote.
It takes nothing to register. It takes nothing to vote. And all honesty, if you've ever been to vote, it doesn't take as long as you think it does, and the lines are not as long as everybody said that they are.
That's right.
That's another way for them to vote and suppress, because that's what they're doing. They're getting you scared to go out and vote.
They really are.
Another thing too, take your elderly, scoop them up
With you.
and take them.
And go to
Take
early
them early.
voting.
Go to early voting.
Yeah.
That's the way we stop this.
Yes.
This is some good information.
Yes.
Thank y'all for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And early in the day.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Because
that's
if
the best.
you can move around and get that done as early as possible, then you get people in place, you get your elderly out of the way. And so if you're early voting and it's early in the day, there's benefit to doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And there are, contrary to popular belief, like Titan said, the lines aren't as long, and your job has to allow you time
That's right.
to go vote.
They have
They
to.
cannot threaten you with your job.
Exactly. I think it's 4 hours.
Right. Okay.
I don't
Is
know
it
if it's
4 hours?
4. The last time
It
I
was
heard
2?
it was 2.
Yeah.
It was 2? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But it
maybe
might
it's still
be being
4.
a pandemic
Yeah.
and they know about the lines and such. I don't know if things
Okay.
have changed,
Yeah.
but I know before I heard it was 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know one time I did, it took 3, but he was like, okay, just let me know what's going on and that sort of thing. So they have to. It is a law. They have to let you go vote. They cannot
That's
tell you
correct.
that you cannot
Right.
threaten your
That's
job.
correct.
Yeah. So I just want to know, you guys, what y'all feel about 46 minus 1 catching COVID?
So I've
That
heard
initial response.
that unilateral lip smack.
Okay. Have you all
Lip
seen?
smack heard around the
Have you all
world.
seen the TikTok video where they say, "Okay, so what's that look that everybody gives when a black person is about to go off?" Like
No.
that? You know what I mean?
Like I know you did.
Like I know you did, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
So I originally, it caught me off guard. I'm not even gonna lie.
Mhm.
So I guess it came out. Was it Tuesday night or Wednesday night? It was Wednesday night. So Tuesday, of course we have the presidential debate, which child. But so Tuesday, I'm listening to that. So I'm watching the news just to kind of see what people are saying as a recap to that, right? So I hadn't watched it all day. I was like, let me get my last 15 minutes in before I go to bed. And I turn on CNN and it's like, Trump must quarantine because of, possible COVID exposure. And I was like, what?
Wait.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy cow. But at this point, I'm tired. I didn't took my sleeping pill. I don't have very much.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just go on to bed, right? So immediately my eyes popped open. On Thursday, I was like, let me go see what the news say, right? Because that's what you do the day after the election. You're like, who won, right? So then I get up, I go in the kitchen, and I turn on the TV, and then they're like, Trump has COVID. I was like, Lord, why? What are you saying? Like, but no, it was really like 2020 strikes again.
Yeah.
Like, this can't get any crazier.
Yeah.
This can't get any crazier.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, of course he has it. Of course he has it. Everything you've said, you've been anti this, anti that, even though in the background we find out from Bob Woodruff that you knew all along. So the whole time I'm just sitting there like, of course this is poetic justice. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
He's been careless. He's been reckless. And then, throughout the day, they're like, this person has it. This person's positive. This person's positive. And I'm like, you the next. You the winner. All right. Here we go. You get a COVID. You get a COVID. Everybody gets a
Come on,
COVID.
Oprah. Come
Right.
on, Oprah.
So I'm sitting there
Everybody get a
like,
COVID.
Lord, right, everybody. So I'm just sitting there like, all right, I'm not surprised. Like, so later on in the day is when I start hearing people with the conspiracy theory that this is a stunt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So I hadn't even considered that. And then when I start to listen to people, and then when I start to listen to some of the podcasts that I listen to where people are like, they're giving him these experimental drugs. They're giving them these drugs that have not even been completely tested in clinical trials. What is this about? Why are they saying this? Are they trying to say that he's sicker than he really is? Is this something else that's going on? And I'm just like, hold on. So I need y'all to talk to me about what you think because I don't know.
Go ahead.
So let me say this.
Marie.
Hey.
All right. So just imagine election 2020. Just imagine how I'm looking right now. Right? I'm not winning.
That part.
I'm not winning.
And I'm
right
willing
now.
to give it up.
Okay.
Okay.
I've stated.
I've done everything I can. Voter suppression.
Right.
Everything that I could have done. I blame the next man. And even at the debate, I wouldn't let the other person talk.
That's
I wouldn't do any of that. I have been putting out fake news. I have been telling you to round up, get ready, stand by. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, I got COVID.
Okay.
But I'm gonna tell you something. Look back at those earlier broadcasts of him. He had COVID.
Okay.
He had COVID. He never wore a mask. He was always around these people. How is it that America is being subjected to COVID and you are not?
Right.
But then did you hear today that he's up and he's walking and he's good and he's just great? They've given him things like melatonin and something else and da-da-da-da. And so I can't remember the exact words, but it was a vaccine or something of that nature that they gave him that caused him to bounce back really quick. Now everybody else, Kellyanne Conway, everybody else is coming out and saying that. You don't see the conspiracy?
Right.
Because all this time, COVID was in its prime. And I'm not being funny by anybody that's had COVID, that's dealt with COVID. But COVID was in here knocking people down. You know what I'm saying? Had you scared to go outside. All of a sudden, your commander-in-chief gets COVID. And then within 2 days, he's better. He's up and walking around. He wants to go outside and run. This is what they were saying.
He ain't running nowhere.
So I said, so they got these doctors, but listen to the doctors. Listen to the doctors and people reporting. Nobody has told you what it is they gave him. They gave you the roundabout, melatonin and all of this stuff.
Well, they did say Regeneron was a drug, and that's the experimental one. And then they said that they've given him remdesivir, which is what they typically give once you start to have symptoms. So it's like, why would you give him a treatment that they typically don't give until you have some sort of that? And that's part.
And
that's
then
my story.
If I'm not mistaken, in the beginning when they talked about the different things that you could do to help you with it or get over it or deal with it, one of the things was, what is it, chloroquine? And he stated that, you know, he was taking it. So I just thought it was really interesting that, okay, you've been taking all these things but you got it.
Right.
Well, that's just like you taking a treatment for something that you've never had, right? Why would I take a cold remedy if I didn't have a cold?
Right.
That doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. And so what you were saying was he was taking the actual drugs that were to be administered once you had those symptoms and things like that to kind of fight it off.
Right.
But isn't it kind of ironic that right before early voting, you just now caught COVID?
Absolutely. And we're going to get through this together.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
come on, sympathy vote.
And that's
just saying.
That was the other thing, because it's like, okay, so if I want to stay on this conspiracy theory train, then it becomes well, y'all know I had COVID and I was out for 14 to 16 days, and y'all know I couldn't campaign. I really couldn't do anything. So this is a situation where I'm gonna need more time or finding ways.
Ain't right.
Yeah,
able to do.
You know,
clown
and
the other ones.
Exactly for wearing a mask.
I'm just saying.
What I would be interested in how an election would go if the commander-in-chief was out sick.
So the question that door. Because it's like, okay, so can you, so one of the things that America wants to make sure of, because this is not just a conversation that we're having in America. Now the world, this is a global thing.
Absolutely.
So whether he's faking or not, anybody who could be looking for vulnerabilities from us, we are now sitting in a very vulnerable state. Because to anybody that wants to attack us, their president is down. Their president he's not in his house. He's not in a position to wreck shop or pull law or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so that is a situation where I'm like, okay, if you're going to put us in this position of vulnerability, at what point are you going to bring in Pence and pull this man off of his post? Because what if there's a situation where he really does become ill?
See, this is the crazy part, though.
Pence is worse.
Yeah, Pence is worse, but he's already there.
Okay.
They've already done the sworn in. They've already made sure that Pence is available and ready, just in case. He's not going to go down sickly. He's just going to move out of the way and let Pence come in. I'm telling you, there is something going on. We look at the bylaws and the rules and regulations, because there's a way for us to have this election, right? And if he's out, even if they bring somebody else in, what kind of confusion, what kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to know who's running and who
Right.
he has signed up on his team,
Right.
and what they're about. And so we're gonna have to come back to that.
Yeah.
That's definitely a hot
Because
topic.
the thing is also, before we move, they're not going to tell you the truth.
no.
Because of the fact that you have people listening who could threaten us. So they're going to be like, he's feeling great.
Yeah.
He could be over there on the brink, because they were like, he's breathing on his own. He doesn't need artificial oxygen, right? And so they're giving you all of these little tidbits. And so I'm just like, you are letting us know that he is so well. For what reason? Because he's not as well as you want.
And it made me think about that one movie, and I can't remember who the guy that played the president was, but how they brought in somebody. He was so ill, the actual president, and they brought in his lookalike.
Yes.
And really, when they were talking about it the other day on
Yes.
Fox, and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't
That's
be
the
surprised.
thing. Yep. Well,
Never
you
mind.
never know. You never know.
We're not gonna do that.
I mean, a pumpkin with a blonde wig, that'll do it.
You know, especially if it kind of.
That's
But
it.
anyway, especially if
That's
you
it.
She said a pumpkin.
She said a pumpkin. I don't
She
think
said
Cheeto with the fat on the end. But anyway,
She said pumpkin with a wig.
yeah, baby Cheeto. You ain't never seen one of that?
Pumpkin
No?
with a wig.
Okay. We're just trying. We're trying to help you out with casting calls. We're trying to,
we're trying to keep it simple.
Yes, keep it simple.
Get a good carving on.
I want one of those
Big.
pumpkins from Charlie Brown out of the Great Pumpkin Patch.
Oh,
Okay, that's the kind I want. That's
Well,
the
great pumpkin.
You guys have heard from him throughout the show, and so before we get to introduce you to our guests, we are going to take a break. Be right back.
Yes.
Oh my God. Sorry if you caught that laughing. I was not expecting that one. This is really, I saw a pumpkin. I guess something that movie Wilson with the
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
With the coconut.
And like I saw that face, I was like, oh my God.
That's
Perfect.
Yes, it sure is. And we're back with the Love Power Radio Show. It's your girl, Miss Mimi.
And Treva Denise.
Yes, that's short for Latriva D. And so, like I said, you've heard from him throughout the show, because I always love to hear his perspective on things. But Titan Capri serves as a program manager for the Normal Anomaly Initiative, where they just launched a Trans Ally Collective. He is also an author, entertainer, father, photographer, and the host of the popular podcast called #T2P on FB and YouTube, live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. He has an extensive career in banking. Okay. After working in the corporate world for 11 years, he decided to move away from his career and pursue his love of photography and storytelling. He had no idea the route he would take after being diagnosed with AIDS 15 years ago. It was a horrible experience and took him down a path of unhealthy behavior. About 2 years into his diagnosis, he decided to take some time to work on being positive and healthy. He kept this secret until March of 2019, when he made a bold and initial move to come out about his HIV status. This truth came with a great sense of freedom. He is gracefully aging. He is gracefully aging with HIV while being a Black gay male living and thriving in the city of Houston. Over the last year, he has become an HIV advocate, believing that everyone deserves to be heard. Which is so true. Yes. Now working as a peer navigator with AFH, AIDS Foundation Houston, he is on the front lines of making sure that recently diagnosed clients have the mental, emotional, and spiritual support they need. He believes that one way to eradicate HIV is to be there in the early stages of a client's diagnosis. He believes that being vocal about what he has been through and the challenges he has faced could help those who are facing the very thing he faced 15 years ago. Titan's motto and mantra is, we can no longer be silent. Welcome, Titan Capri.
You know what?
Listen.
Hold on. I'm gonna have to go back out.
Come on.
And come back in.
Why?
So you can
Again, did it feel good?
Did you catch the story?
Yes.
She was rising and falling.
Yes.
Emphasis.
Inflection.
cells are what actually helps the body fight off any type of virus,
Right.
things like that, right?
Right.
And so the more you have, the healthier you can be.
Mhm.
What the virus does, it attacks the T cells, right? And it will start to replicate the actual virus through the T cells. So it'll deplete them.
Okay.
So just imagine what they're saying is that in order for you to be in the AIDS territory or
You have
area,
to-
you need to be under 200, right? T cells. So I only had 4.
Wow.
So the doctor walking in and saying that you have AIDS, and he just walked out. So I always tell people all the
That's
time,
crazy.
the ride home,
Mhm.
right? So just imagine me and my mother was with me.
Okay.
Me and my mother are in this hospital room or in this room, doctor's office.
Okay.
And he says this and he walks out and everything, if I could have heard a fly buzzing or a bee, something,
Yeah.
like everything became so loud, but it was so quiet.
Mm.
The ride home, I heard the buses, I heard the people talking,
Mhm.
stuff I had never heard before
Wow.
because I literally thought my life was over.
Mhm.
How can I survive, right, with
Mhm.
only 4 T cells?
Yeah.
So what happens when you have none?
So here's the thing. So your body is an amazing thing, right?
Mhm.
Because your body can survive without certain things
Okay.
for a period of time.
Okay.
But what was happening with me with 4 T cells, I was on my way out the door.
Okay.
My body was aching, my bones were aching. I had lost like some 60 pounds.
Wow.
I was sick. I couldn't keep anything down.
Mhm.
I was administered into the hospital,
Mhm.
right, where they had to put a central,
Mhm.
in my chest because I couldn't keep anything down. Like I was
Mhm.
getting worse. I started having seizures.
Mm.
So your body starts to react because it doesn't have those cells
Mhm.
to help fight off the actual
Okay.
virus,
Okay.
right? And so what happens is your T cells are need to be above 200 to be out of AIDS.
Right.
I don't want to say, let's say range. Yeah,
Okay.
I want to say territory. So I'm
Right.
talking about
Mhm.
some, but and then your actual viral load, right,
Mhm.
means the replica,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
How much of the virus you have in your body,
Okay.
right, needs to be below 50,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So what that is just a little pin drop, milliliter drop of blood,
Mhm.
right? You cannot detect more than 50 replica in that little bitty drop of blood.
Okay.
So that leaves you to be undetectable.
Okay.
So the whole point is we need to bring the viral load down and the T cells up, right?
Okay.
And so that's what happened. So I went into the hospital and they started working on me.
Okay.
They put the central line in, they made sure that I was good, and then they worked me back up above 200
Okay.
T cells. So
How long did that take?
it took a while. It
Okay.
took a while. So once I was out of the single digits
Mhm.
and I started going to the double and getting to the triple,
Okay.
things started to be, I could eat, I
Okay.
could, sit up, I could
Okay.
do things, I could use the restroom on my own
Okay.
because it drains your body. So
Okay.
so think about just being tired,
Mhm.
tired, right?
Mhm.
And you know how that's draining. So
Mhm.
you've been out in the sun all day long.
Mhm.
This is not the equation of
Sure.
that, but you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You've been out in the sun all day long, the sun and beat you down. When you get home, you are tired. You don't
Right.
want to lift your legs.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what the virus had
Worn
did to my
out.
body, right? I was a darker shade. Like right now, I'm looking kind of light,
Mhm.
but I was just as dark as this
Wow.
this microphone stand.
Wow.
Um,
Interesting.
I lost so much weight that I went from like a 38 waist
Mhm.
down to like a 30, 32,
Wow.
right? And then my lowest weight, I was at 147.
Wow.
And so I couldn't
Hmm.
eat anything. Everything was hurting. My eyes had kind of sunken into my, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I look like death.
I was about
And
to
so
say,
that's the reason.
say.
And that's the reason why I tell people all the time, they say, oh, well, Titan, you look, hey, you're talking about this or that. No, I've been there.
Mhm.
I've been there. I'm still on medication. I'm going to always be on medication.
Mhm.
But when I first started, I was taking 5 pills at a time,
Right.
right? So now I only take really 2,
Okay.
but I was on a cocktail is what they call it.
Sure.
So they had to build me back up, and then that old saying, build somebody back up, eat a lot, eat potatoes, eat this and that. When I tell you I was pigging out, I still love food because I got a whole lot of experience right around this time. But I had to fight back, and it took a while. To answer your question, it took about 6 months.
Now, were you hospitalized the whole time?
I was hospitalized like the first month and a half.
Okay.
Then I went home. With a bag on my side.
Okay.
I went home getting injections.
Okay.
And then I started seeing my doctor on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
So once I was able to kind of bounce back a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right, and get like to 100 plus T cells, then that's when the real work started, right? I just gained weight, be able to move around, figure out what medication works and things like that. So, yeah, I felt like death in the beginning because that's the stigma that we have.
Yeah.
It's almost like the same type of stigma you have when somebody says you have stage 4 cancer, or something like that.
Right.
You don't think of anything else but death. But HIV, right, doesn't give you that same death sentence because you're living and thriving with HIV. But when you hear AIDS, it's like,
totally
snap, right? It's like, oh, snap. So a lot of people we're in this language first type of time now, but back then, 15 years ago, he just told me I had AIDS and walked out. And me and my mother was trying to be strong for me, but I could tell, I mean, she was devastated. When we got home, it was everything. If I sneezed, if I coughed, she thought something was going on. So, and then a lot of times you don't really understand the mental. So when you mention about me being a peer navigator, and when I go in and speak to someone who's just been recently diagnosed, I always say mental, emotional, and spiritual, because most of it is in our mind. Most of it is in our head. We see what happens in society and things like that, and then we're like, oh snap!
This is going to happen.
So this is going to happen to me. So I had seen so many of my friends. Right. I used to entertain and perform at clubs around the city. And so many of the entertainers that I knew were dropping like flies. And so when I was diagnosed, I was like, okay, I'm next. So that's the reason I felt like death. And one thing that I tell people all the time, and people say, well, Titan, is that really something that you should be talking about? I actually prayed to die. I prayed to die. I asked the Lord to let me go, right? Because I was hurting. I was shame, guilt, all of those things, all of that stigma was on me. And mentally, I just felt that it would be better if I just let it take its course, right? I wasn't going to kill myself, right? But if I happen to fall asleep, and don't wake up, then I will be for the better. And so something I want to tell people right now, I'm sitting here looking like this, talking about only having 4 T cells. But if you could have seen me back then, you would understand what that fight was. But I'm gonna tell you something that that my God told me. And it wasn't a word, it wasn't verbalized, it was just this. Stop. Like stop. Like stop. So I want to tell anybody out there that's listening, that may listen later on, you may be in the thick of it right now, you may be going on, but in the beginning I felt like death. That was your question. I felt like death. But now I'm at a point to where and it didn't take me 15 years, right, to get to that point. It took me only, as Mimi said, it only took me 2 years to really think about it, right, and understand that I was here for a reason, right? And so with that, I'm 15 years later, and I can sit here and say that. But I want you to know that there's hope, there's help, and there is a way for you to bounce back. But you got to be serious about what's going on. I know I took a little while like that.
No, that was
look, I'm over here getting all teary-eyed and stuff, and I'm thinking like, y'all, I'm gonna get y'all for this today.
Yes. Well, you're gonna be getting us a lot because you're gonna be back. So.
Yes, indeed.
So when you talk about I want you to talk about what was the mental work that you needed to do to even get to that place where 2 years later you were willing to take the steps to live more positively and more healthy. So we're going to talk about that after this break.
Okay.
All right.
Are you enjoying the show? Show your love for your favorite Starter Radio shows with
I was like, you know, I can talk something.
No, that was good.
And be like, hey, look, I was looking for the little plate or whatever.
And then he started moving. I was like,
So the normal anomaly is where I'm familiar. Ian Haddock. Yeah, that's where I'm
exactly
from his
and we're back with the Love Power Radio Show. And our guest here, Titus Capri.
Yeah.
So we gave you, Treva gave you a question.
Yes. So when you looked at, what was the mental work that you had to go through to get to the place to where you didn't see this as a death sentence?
So I think sometimes because of society and because of the stigma that's around HIV, I had to get out of my head that I wasn't dead. Right? That was the first thing. The first thing was that I wasn't dead. Some people may say, oh, I had to get it in my mind. I needed to pray and do all of this good stuff. And nothing against God, nothing against the Lord, nothing against Jesus, the Spirit, and all of that.
Right.
But that wasn't going to help me at that point.
Right.
I had to be able to understand for me that I wasn't dead. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Even though I may feel like crap, even though I may be going down this road, even though I can't even get up on my own right now, I deserve to live.
And I'm still here.
And I'm still here. And I'm still here. And so many people I know passed on. And so that was the first thing. That was the first thing. I had to get over that denial. You know what I'm saying? That denial that I am sick, right? The denial that I had only 4 T cells. I denied that as well. And the denial that people were looking at me differently, right? So I denied myself all of that because I'm gonna be real with you. People were looking at me differently, right? Yeah. But that had nothing to do with me at that point, right? Because I'm not actually HIV. Does that make sense? Or AIDS. I'm human first, right? And so in my mind, I had to get to the point that I deserve to live, despite the stigma, despite the hurt, despite and people said some foul things to me when they found out that I had AIDS, right? So that was a reason for me kind of like taking myself and closing myself off from the world. So it took me a while to do that. But once I got to that point to where, and it's funny because I was, giving little tidbits to everybody else. Believe in yourself. Do what you need to do. And I'm over here slowly dying. Right? And so at the point, I had another dream, I think it was. Some people call them visions. I believe I just had a conversation, I like to say that, with my higher power. And my higher power said that it was when I got my results back from my third test. I think I want to say my third. And I was at 230 T cells. Now, some people may say 230, that ain't nothing. But for somebody who only had 4, I did a new lease on life. Look, I did a jig when it was at 180. Come on. When it got to 240. River dance. Giving it to her. I was like, y'all don't understand. Okay. Okay, I was hammering all over the place as far as I could move. Right. Chinese typewriter. Okay, and so after that, I had this conversation with my higher power, and again, I'm not done with you. Right. And so at that point, I said, how in the world can I ever be for anybody? My mother, my grandmother, my daughter, my nieces, my nephews, my family, right? How could I ever be for them? Getting them to go from point A to point Z. And I can't even get to B. I'm still sitting over here at A. Like, y'all gonna help me out? Help me out. Now, don't get me wrong. My family was there for me. My mother, my grandmother, my brother. At the time, my nephew was living with, and he was 5, 6 years old, trying to do the best that he could because he loved his uncle. But the thing was, I had to get up and do it. I always say prayer without work is dead. That's it. Right? That's what they say. I can pray all day long and tell you what I'm going to do. But if I don't get up and move, it's going to go to the ceiling and right back down to the floor. That's it. So that's what that was there. So it took that, I didn't want to be dead. I didn't want to die. Right? And in the beginning, I wanted to. But after that, I recognized that I had to live. And then plus my higher power told me that there was something else that I had to do. I didn't know that it was going to be 14, 15 years later, but you understand how that goes.
Ooh, and that's awesome.
And that's powerful because, all you can do is keep living. Exactly. Right. And so you're like, all right, I'm waiting to see. And then here you are, you're like, oh, this is why.
And then what if I would have never lived? What if I would have never lived? What if I would have never, what if I'd have never met people? What if I'd have never seen, this? Or what if I'd never traveled? And did this? So I have a wealth of love and support because I live. Right? Because I live. If I because I tell everybody all the time, we always talk, me. I can't tell you nothing I ain't done.
Right.
So if I ain't done it, we ain't finna talk about
Right.
it. We can speculate.
Right,
give
right,
you some,
right. Some
ideas.
ideas.
But if I've done it, I'm gonna tell you what it looks like, what it smells like, and all that good stuff, so that we on the same page.
Yeah.
But I always think about whenever I'm talking with someone who's just been recently diagnosed, is that you have not seen it yet.
Yes.
You have not lived it yet,
Yes.
right? You have not lived it yet. Your life is more precious than you can ever imagine.
So
You just got to get past this.
Yeah.
You got to get past it. And sometimes it's a hard hump to get over.
Absolutely.
Because you're stuck.
Yeah.
Like I was stuck in death.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do nothing. So one part, I didn't take my medication for a whole year.
Wow.
Because that's so that 2 years span that I'm talking about. Because if you remember in the bio, so that she so eloquently stated in the beginning, is that I took some time out to be serious about my health and my life. I didn't take my medicine because, again, I was in denial. I was depressed, right? And I was going through about what it was. So I took a moment and I said, and I'm talking about this candidly, I took a moment and I said, I'm not going to take this medication. I'm going to see what's going to happen.
Okay.
Because if it's for me to die, then I'm going to die.
That's true.
And then here I am 15 years later.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't tell you that. So anybody that's listening, understand that's what that is.
So your diagnosis is being managed by your lifestyle right now, your healthy living lifestyle?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So once you get a hold of it, right, and I'm going to say the virus.
Sure.
Once you get a hold of it, once you put your hand around the virus neck and let the virus know that you're going to choke them out, they keep bothering you. First thing that you can do to manage your virus, okay? And first thing you can do to manage your virus is to basically know your numbers. And I say your numbers because we talked about the viral load and the CD4 count.
Right.
But know your status.
Okay.
That's important, all the way across the board.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether or not you are gay, straight, blue, black, yellow, orange. Know your status.
Right.
That's the first step.
Okay.
To that healthy living.
Okay.
Nice. That's good. And two, I want to add to that. You said you decided to, after you had a conversation with your higher power, to make your problem less.
Yes.
And living and pushing forward bigger than your problem. That's
correct.
Huge. When we walk into or find out, like you said, he gave you that information, he dropped the bomb and he walked away.
Right.
So for people who have come across cancer and, different things of that, where the outside has it looking at, once you get it, that's just it.
Right.
No, make your higher power, your God, bigger than your problem, because trust me, he or she is. Right. And make your will to live bigger than that.
Yes.
Right. And let me add just a little bit to that. That is so important, but you got to do the work. You got to get up off your behind. You got to move. You have got to do the work. Because if I would have sat there and prayed, I would have never made it to where I was supposed to be. So you're right. That higher power said, hey, whoever your God is in that aspect, I'm speaking to the masses. Yeah. But my God told me, you need to do this, right? And what it was, you need to live. So how can I live? I had to get up and get out and do. So thank you for that question, because that was.
Will you promise us that you will come back?
Most definitely.
So that we can talk more about what it means to do the work.
Most definitely.
And I say that because people drop that like everybody knows what that means and looks like, right? And so I've always heard that, okay, well, you need to start doing the work to get your mental, emotional healing. And if I knew how to do the work, I would be doing the work. I would love for you to come back and talk to us about what that looks like, what it looked like for you. Yes. But just breaking that down for us, because so many of us want that healing, but that statement is off-putting. Yes. And it's well, if I knew how to do it, I would do it. And then we end up in the same rut. Right. So I look forward to having you come back and talk to us.
And I'm going to say this. I'm an open book, right? Anybody that's out there listening, anybody that's on the radio show or commenting, anything like that, I am Titan Capri on all social media. Awesome. All you have to do is just hit me up. Awesome. We can talk. We don't have to talk about what your situation is. You can just ask questions. Right. And I have answers. And then when I come back, the next time I will come with an outline with some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s of things to do, because it's so important, especially for our youth. Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah. And then another thing too, really quickly, there is an older okay, group
Yes, come on.
that literally doesn't know about this,
Come on.
that doesn't know those
Come on.
things. And I'm talking to them as well,
Yes.
because as most
Please.
people may know, but some may not, I'm 49 years old.
Come on.
Right.
So I'll be turning 50 in March.
And our generation felt a particular way about
Yeah.
this disease.
Yeah.
And
Because
I
it
love
ravaged us.
Yes.
It ravaged us. It took so many of our loved ones.
Yes.
So I know that we're doing this for the youth, but we
Yes.
still have a demographic that's
Thank
out
you.
there that's
Yeah.
older,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
that don't
Dangling.
know,
Yes.
that are sitting back watching and don't want to come out.
That's right.
And I'm not saying come out.
Right. But share. Be
right,
transparent.
come into the light and say, this
Yes.
is what's happening with me.
Yes,
right?
and there's stuff